everyone, and welcome back. Today I do not have a lot of time, so what better deck to play when you have a very small amount of time to be able to play is Boros Burn. This is one of the best decks in the meta, especially when it comes to best of one, and you can get very high win rates with this deck in the upper 70s and 80%, especially when you're on the play, and on the play that is pretty consistent. Because if your opponent staggers one time, they lose the game because you have 8 1-drops to play in terms of creatures and 8 2 damage burn spells, and if you flood, this can deal 4 damage in the late game on your opponent's end step. You have Boros Charm to deal 4 damage. You have Lightning Helix to deal 3 damage and gain you 3 life in that mirror matchup. Flick Shots to come in over the top, weirdly being our worst creature now. Cards like Monstrous Rage is what made this card so phenomenally good and lethal. But we have Emberheart Challenger as our good solid 2-drop in comparison to Slick Shot. Shelter by Ghost to help win games. Screaming Nemesis to also just help us win in a lot of our matchups as well, obviously. With all that said, I don't have a lot of time. We're just going to dive into the games, see how they go. Opponents first, we will keep. Just got control then? We'll see how this ends up going. Doesn't seem great, to be honest, but who knows? Go ahead. Just going to put a burn spell down and instep. Here. 15. Combat. 2. Any amount of damage this guy does is phenomenal. Any amount. They're already at 13. I'll activate here. And now I have Boros Charm times 2 to protect it. Combat. Okay. In turn. I could set them to 2 right now. I think we just wait till they're in step though. Because I can still, if I still hit them with a Boros Charm, right? And put them to 6 and then do Helix, I can then still do everything. And then my creature would be untapped. If they counter, obviously there, right? Huh? Alright, we get the end step. 4 damage to your face. Sure. Now we have a million cards. Uh-huh. Here. Wait. Here. We only need the Boros Charm to resolve. Nice. We get there. Very cool. All right, we get to go first. Very aggressive early game hand. So if our opponent isn't quite ready to handle it, it's obviously going to run. They're going to run into a lot of problems. Kind of just depends what they're playing. See blue. Blood Maul, maybe? All right. Yeah, that makes sense. It was most likely actually blue-black, right? So we go here. Go here. Now we attack. Because obviously I don't think they're going to block. We're just going to get a free 2 chip in. And then we can shock this in. And then both our spells are usable. These are obviously exhaustible. Especially if we draw another land, we'll look to exhaust these. But we'll see. I feel like most likely a map's getting activated to put on here. Maybe they play a second Spyglass. Maybe they go into a flood pit situation. There's no way this attacks when it had an easy trade with a 2-1. Mono blue, okay. They have 1 blue available. They have a flood maul here, it seems. Pretty evident. I can tell by the math. Here. Get to play around Spell Pierce by doing this. This is only relevant during their turn. We could then Helix it on like their end step when it tries to become a land, maybe. Okay. Not bad. We could also just like pump the Higher Claw, but they clearly have a bounce spell. It's just, it's not even a question, right? Sure. Against this deck, I do think going wider is better than going bigger on one creature because the amount of bounce, tap, and stun stuff they have. So the more things we have on board, the better. Now, obviously, this is going to be here. The main problem with a 1-mana burn spell is they just cast any, or I guess a 2 damage burn spell. It doesn't necessarily have to be 1, right? Is that they cast any blue spell at instant speed, just goes to 3, and then we're out of range. If they cast a spell and it goes to 3, or tries to go to 3, and then we Helix it next turn, then they have to cast 2 spells to get it there. But we'll see. Mono blue versus Boros, semi mono red to some extent. It goes back to being a land, sure. Not bad. I mean, this is 4 damage at minimum every turn, even if they're bouncing my stuff. Have to have like actual things. Sure. Huh. I'm gonna shoot this thing out of the way, actually. I know I was thinking about that one. But I'm just gonna get him down to 8. Get it to where this is pretty close to lethal. Right? Because we just get to do that. Activating there, trying to hit an island. They do. So they're basically in the same situation. They should have attacked with this. Why they're not attacking with it? Well, I mean, I guess I haven't land up. Not quite that impressive. Combat. They Tidebinder me now. It won't matter. Down to 7. Sure. Yes. 7. 3. Yeah, so we have 7 here. Or I can just do this and keep it alive. Not get blown out by a counterspell that they most likely have, right? I think that's the problem, is we're gonna sit here and we're gonna play around their counterspell the entire time. Did I get rid of I got rid of my... No, I got rid of Shelter because it was never gonna be good. Right. Yeah, we're just not gonna make their counterspells good. They have 2 mana counterspells all over their hand. Like, we're just not gonna play into it. If I tried to do anything to that, like Shelter by Ghost or do anything, or Boros Charm, they just counter this and my creature dies, would not be great. I don't really not like having turn 1 plays at all. Especially considering you can't really target anything, but 2 Slick Shots with Boros Charm seems pretty good. Especially if I hit lands. I am on the draw. We might just have better 6s though. I think we have better 6s. I'm a little more inclined for this one. We'll put away the only card we can't cast, even though it's probably the best card in that hand, technically. This is why having turn 1 plays matter a lot. Docking this in against what seems like blue-white probably doesn't matter. I guess here, like, we could have plotted a slick shot all day, right? Turn. Okay, so the cool part here is we gain indestructible, and we still make the maps. So now we can use these as resources. Here. And honestly, if this gets us this 2 extra damage and stays alive, then we're pumped, right? Combat. This isn't a goblin, or not a goblin. It's not a lizard, so we don't have to worry about jamming our hard claw here. But I will jam it into their probably counter spell. No. Alright, Day of Judgment, maybe? Sure. That's fair. I don't think Shelter has many targets against them. I think it's better to just give this as much protection as I can. You know, that might be wrong. Let's just make it harder to deal with. Combat. Here. Oh, sure. Another reason we don't play this, so they can't just counter it for free in a spot like that. One turn. This doesn't have prowess, so shocking doesn't necessarily do much for us there. Our turn. Combat. Does 2 damage a turn, to be honest, so we actually don't care. Because Fountain Port comes in, does that, right? And then they get shot for 1, and then this gets blocked. So 2 damage a turn, we're not upset with. And we're most likely not committing a spell here, so we might as well pump that up. Make something like a Biza have a hard time blocking. Oh, speak of them. No tokens to be made, though. Combat. Here. This is where my Screaming Nemesis in the bottom of my library makes me very sad. Now I randomly have a 5/5 trading off Biza. Turn. Maybe they have a get lost now. Sure. My burn spells would be a little bit more flushed out in my hand, and kind of what I mean by that is if I just had a bit more like a Helix and Boros Charm and things like that, I'd be a bit more inclined to commit. But Split Up comes in, gets rid of that, sure. A land. Might be a situation where I hold this land for whenever I play this and activate it. Okay. Them down. Because now if it's like remove this, I can play this, and if I draw another land, I can activate it and get rid of both. For example, combat. Here. Sure. One. Okay. You were serious about that. Sure. All right. Combat. That. Sure. Most likely, if they have a counter spell, it's 3 steps ahead, right? There's no way. That's insane to me. Sure. Auto pay. Also pay attention to your mana. Because it did you no favors. It did you no favors at all. If that's another counter spell, that's brutal. Because your mana did you no favors based on the auto tapper. But we'll take it. We'll take it. I mean, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, we'll keep. We're also on the play, so it feels really good. 1 mana creatures dealing 2 damage consistently is still a little baffling to me. Here. Obviously, this has to be like a bounce spell. There's not really a whole lot more it could be. Here. Or I guess it could be like opt or something. But I feel like I feel like it's gonna be a bounce spell. I am still under the assumption, unless they have removal, which could be the case, they could have an abrade or something here. Looks like we're playing against EV probably. Something, I don't know. Because we hit the extra land, a little part of me wants to wait on my Screaming Nemesis, but it feels like I should be fine in this matchup to play it. You're gonna bounce it, and then I play land and shock it next turn, right? Not that big of a deal. Sure. Although life gain in this match isn't their main thing, right? Helix. Great draw. Obviously, I doubt they block, right? But now I can go Shelter by Ghost, absorb the Mako, start gaining a ton of life, make this really hard to remove, and then just shock kind of whatever I need to. Do 4 here. Play this. Go ahead. And then something where they might throw damage on my Nemesis, pay the ward, I then shock my Nemesis. And then do that whole plan. I'm probably shocking it regardless here. Or attempting to. Yeah? Sure. Here. Go to combat. Oh, you're gonna do it for me? I can do 2, and then they take... How much is it? They'll take 5 here, go to 6, 7, 8, and go to 1. Guess so. Seems good. Oh, wait. If I just lightning strike them, did I win? Or helix them? I dumb. Oh, no, because they still have a block here. Yeah, that's right. Because it gets blocked this. We were fine on our math. If they blocked there, they definitely would have blocked with the Helix. That's right. I forgot that they did it. They can do it before they get to block, and then the creature would come back and block. We knew it, bro. Come on. I have the mana to pay around their Spell Pierce or anything like that, so we just don't really care. We just have a Helix to end the game. Here. Oh. Man, Vivi's a lot easier to play against when it's not like fear of missing out, put a Vivi in the graveyard, I get the Soul Cauldron, win the game. We can actually play against it, you know? Obviously, they didn't do any of that, so obviously I can say it's easy to play against. Opponent first, no one drop, but we can plot this and maybe get some good results. Tap an untap permanent control, add 1 mana of any color. I'm just gonna go ahead and remove that. I feel like it's a Kona pile, but who knows? It was just Gruul aggro. I still think I plot this. Yeah. No, it's Delirium maybe? I just helped him out a ton? That's not great. Class there. It's all up to you, bro. What can you do to me? Hopefully nothing, but there's probably gonna be something. Yeah, there's probably gonna be something, that's for sure, brother. Pass there, there's a pause, but it could be that. Could be a lot of things. This. That'd be in. Alright. You're a keen eye. I might take care of this guy. He gets like, he becomes huge, bro. I don't trust him. I know I could have done a little bit more here with like burst lightning something, but I'm just holding for like second slick shot burst lightning, or maybe screaming nemesis and just like hold the screaming nemesis back. Against this matchup, it tends to be an okay plan. They put another fear into play, they might be able to get a land into their graveyard, which is that's a problem. If somebody has the deck list, I really genuinely want more than anything to play this card with lightning. So they're past combat here, so I can protect myself a bit on this total by taking care of this, and then that takes this card away from them. So now you see Delirium's on, but because they already declared attackers, it doesn't actually matter anymore. So we're going to play Screaming Nemesis here. Play this tap land. I could be playing around the card that I play and I discard 2 cards, but honestly, with this hand, I'm willing to play activate and discard both of these cards because Slickshot's not getting a ton of value here. Sure. We play the race game if you'd like. Now, I think I'm doing the opposite. Play this out. Maybe I could have held a land. Play this out. Attack like this. This is going to always jump in front of a fear. Killing more now doesn't make much sense to me. Well, I don't know. It doesn't matter. I guess if they play the other card in their deck, it does. The 3-drop that if you have 6, it like puts the counters and then doubles everything, which would make a lot more sense. If we take another win, we'll take that. Very cool. Not going any lower than that, I think. I think having both like my mana fully accessible here matters. On a green? Burst Lightning probably matters a bit. This was a couple of shelters probably matters a ton. Yeah. And a fully accessible. We go Ember Heart. These shelters might mean all the difference in the world, especially if they start hitting like a land or 2. Obviously, we're not guaranteed a land. Just going to come in. No land for them. When we hit, okay. Well, we're off to the races. They have a lot of catching up to do. We are flying right now. No land, double bristly bill, triple bristler. Maybe they were holding the land, I guess. I mean, that could be possible, right? Now it has sack on it. Well, hear me out. What if I shelter again? We're going for max damage every single turn that we can, right? Could have maybe played a Screaming Nemesis and attacked with it, but that enters tap, so yeah, I'm gonna say, oh yeah, we got it. We got it covered. That land does not enter untapped. We get that win. Very, very cool. All right, so here we are with Boros Burn, and this is kind of what we settled on. It works pretty well. I will say, when you start off playing, don't get discouraged if you go, honestly, it's going to sound like a lot. Even if you go like 0-5, when you're playing this deck, do not look at that in a small vacuum. 5 games is very small. You can go on a losing streak of a lot. Everybody's done it, no matter what you say. Everybody has bad losing streaks. It happens. This deck is just too solid to continue that. Anytime you're randomly on to play, you're going to run your opponent over sometimes. They're not going to be able to stop you and keep up occasionally. And this is one of the best on the play decks that you can be playing. Just because if your opponent staggers one turn, that's all it takes, right? One turn, they lose. Not a whole lot going on there. If they answer wrong, if they try to remove a thing and you interact well, like it's just such a weird thing, because Boros Charm gives everything indestructible. So if they try to remove a thing and you blow them out by doing Boros Charm, or say they go Day of Judgment and you Boros Charm and you give all your 2 to 3 creatures indestructible, that means you get an entire unanswered turn with potentially 2 to 3 mana, and oftentimes that's enough to always win, especially against aggro or control. And then against control, when you're on to play, it's just managing your resources the best you can. Like, don't overcommit when a higher claw is doing enough damage where you don't really want to play the goblin down. Sometimes you might play a haster down if they're tapped out, like maybe they stocked up or something, and you can play a challenger and double burn them, or maybe helix them or something. Then yeah, it makes a lot more sense to do that, because you're getting a lot of damage in. That makes your kind of burn spells instant win buttons when you draw them off the top. But it's just solid. I mean, everybody's played against this deck. I wish I could record more, but we have the modern event tomorrow that I have to be there all day for. So it was pre-release. I'm a bit tired, bit cranky. Wake up early, do that all day for like 12 to 14 hours, and now I have to go do it again tomorrow for another event. It's not that it's bad. It is really fun to do them, and I have a lot of fun. I'm just tired, bro. Like, that's all it is. And then I didn't want to go 2 days without uploading, so this is what we end up playing. Fast, aggressive aggro that is relatively cheap on a budget. This is a rare one, but there is uncommons or commons. It's one of these two. I don't know which one. Uncommon. These are all rares, but if you've ever played a red aggro deck, you have all these. There's no reason not to. And then your lands are pretty self-explanatory. Dock lands are the best ones to grab if you're grabbing any outside of Inspiring Vantage, but this card will technically be the first lands, I think, to rotate in like 2 years. But this is definitely the ultimate spin your rares and mythic on this deck. This deck will have a winning record. As you get better with it, you'll win more games than you probably would have in the very beginning. You might lose a game or two that you shouldn't have because there's a weird minor detail you missed or something like that. But as you play this deck more and more, you will feel yourself winning more and more, and oftentimes in best of one on the play, you're going to have something of like a 70% win rate on the play, which always feels good whenever you can do that. But that said, I hope you all enjoy. I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.